What is going on? Unfortunately, the 7-game winning streak had to come to an end for the Utah Mammoth. And we are here to not only talk about those first 10 games of the season, but the big news coming in from Logan Cooley signing a max term 8-year contract with the Utah Mammoth. This is the Clean Hits Hockey Podcast. I am your host, Brad. We have Clean Hits Kenny, Clean Hits Trent, and special reoccurring friend of the show, Brogan Houston from the Deseret News joining us. Brogan, how are you doing?
Guys, I finally have a chance to catch up on some sleep now that we don't have a game every other day for the first time this
Yeah.
season, so I couldn't be better.
The thing is, though, you look like maybe the beard got all trimmed up after you got caught up on the sleep. But yeah, maybe that's the refresher you needed. But you're looking sharp, Brogan.
You're
Yeah,
glowing.
I'll say this, my to-do list is much shorter now than it was about 4 days ago.
Yes, awesome. Well,
And yes, trimming the
speaking
beard
of
is on that to-do list every now and then.
yeah. In fact, I probably need to too. Our hair and makeup person is on vacation right now, so they weren't able to come by all of our studios. So sorry if we're looking a little more rough. Happy Halloween, everybody! We are recording this on Halloween. Hopefully, you've been keeping up with SLC Puck and all of his costumes, which is one of my favorite new annual traditions. There's the shirt. Go get that as well. I think we need to just jump right into Logan Cooley's contract, though. This is huge news because the core is pretty much locked up here in Clayton Keller, Logan Cooley, Dylan Guenther, JJ Peterka, Sergachev, and then I think the next two big pieces here will be Barrett Hayton and then figuring out Simashev once that comes up. But right now, I think everybody is feeling pretty good about max term and just at a cool, if you will, 10 million per year average.
He's off to a hot start.
Is there any worry about this at all? Is there anything that makes you go pause or question this?
No. And let's not forget, including the core. I mean, we just locked up Vejmelka, who looks like a completely different player from his preseason stats too. So no, I have no worry about this. In fact, I think he's going to outplay this contract in just short order. He might look like a bargain contract in 2 years from now. 10 million is nothing to balk at. I mean, that's a lot of money, especially for a 21-year-old. But there's a chance that he could have pushed this further. And what I love to hear about is that Ryan Smith's approach to approaching Cooley and saying, hey, I know this is, these are always awkward conversations, but I just want to pause and congratulate you that your family's been banking on you since you were a teenager, and now you're sitting here negotiating with the biggest deal of your life, and I just want to say congrats to that. And I think that is such a refreshing approach as an owner, just to put that at the forefront and show Cooley how valued he is, and could very well have had made Cooley and his agent say, you know what, this is where I want to be, and I think 10 million is fair, and it's up to him to outplay that contract because he's due another pay raise probably around 29, 30 years old. So I'm excited. Yeah. We all should be excited, and nice to lock him up for 8 years.
Yeah, Brad, you asked if any of us were nervous or concerned about the extension in any way. No is the short answer. The long answer is there's always some risk in every contract like this. It's a rough sport. Things happen. We've seen crazy stuff occur, not only with injuries, but the yips and dudes going cold, whatever. But I'll say this. This contract makes me less nervous than the one that Clayton Keller signed when he was a youngster. And that one has turned out to be a remarkably great contract. And I had a few more nerves about that one than I do about this one. I was more nervous about the Vejmelka extension than I am about this one. And that one's looking great too. So I would say that any concerns or risk on this one is pretty darn nominal, at least from my end.
Yeah, and we'll take a deeper look in the cap space and the projected cap space going into next year. But Brogan, I want to ask you about this. Cooley, in some recent interviews that have been coming out, indicated that he had to kind of keep this on the down low, and that this was worked out last Friday when they played the Blues and he had a hat trick. Being around the team as you are, was there any sort of indication that this may be close, that it may be getting done, that they're even talking about it? Because the last we all kind of heard was that they were going to table it for the time being and then figure it out. And after he put up 5 goals in 2 games, I was starting to think to myself, well, this thing's going to be closer to Kaprizov than not if they win the season.
Yeah, I had asked Logan about it, maybe, I don't know the exact date, 2 weeks or so before he signed, and I wrote about it at the time. And at that point he said, yes, things are still moving along, like, but I'm leaving it to the agents still, and we'll pop back in and see where it's at, when things get close and that kind of thing. But it was no surprise that he wanted to sign, or that he was okay with signing, I should say, during the season. That was one of the things that he said he was fine with doing. And it sounded like he kind of had stepped back and he said, okay, he's got his 2 agents, and he said, you guys can take it away. You guys go ahead and negotiate with the team. Come to me when you have something. And then that's when he had to kind of step back and make that decision. And it sounds like Ryan Smith had a really key role in making him feel comfortable signing that extension. And yeah, I think things worked out in a way that both the player and the team seemed extremely happy. We had a press conference the day that they announced the extension. It was Ryan Smith, Logan Cooley, and Bill Armstrong, all 3 of them sitting at the same table. And it was interesting, the dynamic between a 21-year-old kid, a billionaire, and a professional hockey GM who is 6'5" and can beat anybody he wants to in a fight. Like, this is 2 very intimidating people if you let them be, and a 21-year-old kid sitting in the middle. And he just seemed like he was, just one of them, which he is now that he's, an NHL superstar and he's making a lot of money and that kind of thing. But he seems more mature this year than he did last year, and I think his game on the ice is obviously showing improvement as well. And I just think things are only going to trend up from here for quite a while, barring any extreme circumstances.
Yeah, and I think that this is not the first time the organization and this player have kind of come together in a little bit of a watershed moment. There was the moment when they chose to select him rather than Shane Wright, who was the unexpected faller and presumptive number 1 overall pick in that draft. The Bill Armstrong administration bet big on Cooley at that time and brought him into the fold. And then there was, after his freshman season with the Minnesota Gophers, he had a little bit of a disappointing end there, losing in the championship, just missing out on the Hobey Baker Award as the top college player, and seemed poised to return to Minnesota for another season, for another crack at both titles, the individual and team title there. And kind of at the 11th hour, contract negotiations progressed, and they had hit a crossroads, and the team put their arm around Logan and guided him right into the NHL. And he left Minnesota behind at that point a bit unexpectedly. So now we reach a point where the 2 groups are coming together again for a huge watershed moment that's going to really dictate the path for the next stage of his career and for the future of the franchise as well. So we've seen that despite the team not having a ton of on-ice success yet, they've built a lot of common ground together, a lot of shared experiences, and a lot of big moments between Bill Armstrong's team and the Logan Cooley team. So it's great to see how well that partnership is developed and how much respect is shown for both sides. I think that's a really positive indication for things moving forward.
Right. And to Trent's point, with Logan Cooley's team, he's represented by an agent that also represents another key player on this team, and that's Clayton Keller. And in 2 years, we're going to have, or probably a little sooner than that, but Clayton Keller is approaching the end of his contract as well, and he's going to be due a big pay raise. And so I think with this team locking up its core, and obviously Keller is the catalyst for this, he might be more inclined to do whatever it takes to stay with this group that's his group now, and try to see where this goes for the long haul. So that we're probably going to be looking at bigger numbers by then, including, considering the fact that the cap is again increasing. So it's going to be probably the biggest contract that this team has ever handed out, even going back to the Coyotes days, especially going back to the Coyotes days. But it never hurts to have one of your buddies get locked up for 8 more years when your contract's coming to a close, and using that as a negotiation chip to stay with the team. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'll piggyback off that a little bit, and I didn't really think much about this until just now. Clayton Keller is currently on that $7.1 million contract that he signed way back when during the Chaika era, and as Trent kind of alluded to, it was pretty nerve-wracking at the time, especially because this was a guy who kind of stagnated after his rookie season, was struggling to get back to the point total he had that first year, full NHL year. Maybe that was partially the Rick Tocchet system, maybe the support pieces around him, maybe it was just gaining that confidence and with a little bit more of a sophomore slump, and then kind of the year or two following that. But didn't really explode again offensively until Tournier comes around. The $10 million contract, to me, makes it seem like when it comes time to have this discussion with Clayton Keller, if you're under the impression that your captain or your best player, especially if they are also a captain or alternate captain, should be kind of the bench line for making the most on the team, Cooley not getting too much more than 10 million really makes it feel a lot more comfortable to me to get Keller at a fairly reasonable number while still kind of having those benchmarks. I know, that's probably not something that gets discussed widely with the team, and Cooley's definitely been referring to Keller and Sergachev as kind of the leaders in the room and the people he wanted to talk to about this most once he was able to. But it seems like there is kind of that unspoken locker room truth to this, where teams will try to often have that best player be the highest paid player on the team. And obviously as cap things change and your younger studs kind of get those first contracts, they may leapfrog somebody. But I really do think that not having Cooley in that 12 million range really allows them to make that statement. Brogan, has there been any kind of chatter around the team with kind of the big signing here? Has there been excitement? Is it something other players have kind of been chatting about, or is this just kind of, it is what it is and we all move on and we're all happy we have him long term?
Yeah, I think it's more of the latter. I think guys are happy for other guys when they get those big deals. And, it was the same with Vejmelka and with McBain when those guys signed over the summer and or I guess later part of the year for Vejmelka. But I think it's kind of one of those things where you negotiate, and then after that you move on. And if there were hard feelings that came out in the negotiation, you leave those in the past. Those are there, you move on, and you agree to be mutually beneficial in the future. And everybody should have a respect for you as a hockey player, and that you deserve that money that you get. And but at the same time, it's obviously still there that you have to keep showing up and keep proving that you're worth that kind of money. And so I think that's kind of where the team's at right now. I don't think there would be anybody that would be mad that Cooley got more than them or anything like that. I know, Dylan Gunther's contract looks like a bargain at this point, but I don't think Dylan's sitting there saying, "Oh, like why is he getting more than me?" It's just how it goes, and that's what it is. As far as Keller goes, I think you're right that it would make sense for him to be the highest paid player on the team. And I think that that would be really meaningful to him, particularly as a person, because it seems like he's one of those guys that really, really cares what other people think. And so,
Mm.
when he was left off of Team USA for the Olympics, he went and he made sure that Bill Guerin knew he was a good hockey player, whether he wants to, say it on camera
Yep.
or not. I think that was, he wanted to make sure that he showed up against the Minnesota Wild all those times last season. And then, you can kind of see it when you talk to him, about being the captain, that he's always saying like, wow, yeah, this is really cool that I am the first captain of this franchise. Like that's a really big honor, and lots of little things like that just kind of say, um, you know, this matters. And I think that
Right.
we hear a lot of people talk about how players are kind of competitive against other players around the league in terms of contract values. Like, if you're the highest paid guy, then that means that you're thought of the highest. And I think that would factor into Keller's negotiation. Maybe I'm a little off base there, but I don't think so. And so I wouldn't be surprised if Keller wanted to get quite a bit of money, and obviously be the highest paid player on the team, because there aren't that many highly paid players on the team. But it just seems like something that would matter to him.
Yep. Agreed.
And probably a good reason for the team to continue to keep a steady stream of entry-level contracts coming through here.
Yeah.
So, there's been a lot of talk about fans about loading up this season, and I'm thinking, let's maybe balance the budget a little bit as we head into extension season with Clayton Keller and others. Yeah.
Yep.
But I will say, Gunther at 7.1, Peterka at 7.7, and I mean even Cooley at 10. Like that's a bona fide first line that's playing as your second line right now. And 3 years from now, when they're all still locked up at that same number, but they're all 24, 25, 26. Man, I wouldn't be surprised if each of those guys were 100-point players,
right?
3 seasons from now, and yeah, I don't know. It's going to be something to watch, that's for sure.
Yep.
And they make an average, right? If you average their salaries of that line, they make an average of 8.33 AAV.
Wow,
it's a bargain, man. Yeah, bargain.
Look at the brain on Trent. How long did it take you to figure that out?
Right.
Is that what you've been doing all afternoon before recording?
No, I was arguing with a guy on Twitter, actually. Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
So much
That's
more
a productive way to spend your morning.
Much more productive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's put on our glasses here and do a little bit more math. We have the almighty Puckpedia, which is a fantastic tool for projecting cap space and seeing the different contracts around the league. And we have the Utah Mammoth pulled up here. Let's just go on over to that cap projection tab and kind of take a look at what this team looks like cap space wise in the future. And you can see right here, we still have about 4.5 million in cap space this season. So if this team wants to add or feels like they need to add, there is definitely room to take on another contract, a kind of medium level contract. So as this team continues to push for the playoffs, or maybe if they make another big statement like a 7-game winning streak, that may be time to try to find the best way to add to this roster now that doesn't really hamper the future too much. So maybe it's an expiring contract or somebody who is only signed for another several years. But looking at next season, 27.7 million in cap space feels very good, especially with Cooley's contract kicking in then. The main pieces here that are not included would be Nick Schmaltz and Deseret Hayton. Deseret Hayton being an RFA still, which means we'll have the initial kind of bid on him and be able to try to make that negotiation work. If it gets to the point where there's just absolutely no agreement, we would be able to move that contract in a trade rather than just losing him to free agency. Schmaltz, on the other hand, is able to walk if we cannot get a deal done with him, or if they do not even come to the table with a deal for him. Kind of looking back at the rest of the roster, we do have some other free agents. Alex Kerfoot, currently on IR, will be a free agent. Kevin Stenlin, kind of the main face-off master that we discussed last episode, will be a free agent. Michael Carcone. I'm not even going to bother with Kevin Rooney and Yamamoto. Sorry, boys. Ian Cole, Valimaki, who I would expect to walk, and Nick DeSimone. So really that blue line is still pretty much as is. Unfortunately, Cole has been absolutely fantastic over the course of the week, where I would say Alimata has struggled a little bit more, and he will have 2 years remaining. So I don't know if Cole would be kind of a candidate to be re-signed, or if that will be somebody that we pull up from the prospect pool, whether that be Maverick Lamara or Artem Duda. The forward group definitely will have some areas that we will need to figure out. And luckily, again, Barrett Hayton right there 1 year before he goes to UFA. So I think Barrett Hayton, his production will probably matter the most on what type of contract he receives from this team. I can't imagine he is going to be looking for another bridge deal, but if he wants to bet on himself, if he wanted to sign for another, let's say 3.5 to 4.5 million for 2 to 3 years and then be able to go into free agency after that, or if he tries to get a long-term deal with the team, again, I think that's going to be very production dependent. Nick Schmaltz, obviously, with his production so far this season being top 5 in scoring. At one point, he was the second in scoring, is really making a case for himself. And then obviously we have some depth pieces that we would want to fill in. I imagine at some point here, Daniil Boot would be taking up one of those spots, and maybe even guys like Owen Allard, Sam Lipkin, or some of those other depth pieces in Tucson, which would allow us to potentially sign Schmaltz to a $7 to $9 million contract.
Yep. That's where things get interesting.
Yes, I feel like that will be the cookie that needs to crumble first before the rest of this roster can get figured out.
Right. There's a couple different avenues you could take with this. Like Nick Schmaltz. Obviously, we kind of projected this in the offseason. He's entering into a contract year. When players know that they're playing for their next contract, they're motivated. And if you would have asked me, there's going to be one player in the top 5 of scoring after 10 games. If you would have asked me who it was, I think Nick Schmaltz would have been my probably 5th or 6th guess. But he's playing like a man on fire right now. He's playing like, I got to take these off. These are insanely scratched. I'm trying to go for the bit, but he's playing like he wants to prove his worth, whether that's with Utah or, when he enters into free agency. So there's a couple different avenues you can take. There's not necessarily a rush with this. You can let this breathe a little bit and maybe see where you're at, maybe a few weeks before the trade deadline, and decide, hey, do I want to maybe flip this piece in and I use this in our Discord earlier in the week, so bear with me. I'm not comparing Nick Schmaltz to Mikko Rantanen, but in a Mikko Rantanen for Stankoven type deal where you trade the better player at the time for a younger player on another roster with potentially a higher ceiling in the future. And both teams were in the playoff position at that time, right? And so it could be where both teams are competitive, but there's a small shakeup, or you let it go and just say, hey, you know what, we just go play and we'll revisit this in the off season. I can't tell you which way they're leaning. all credit to Schmaltz for going out there and playing his bag off like he has. But this is one of those ones that I'm having a really, really difficult time with. Like one day I'm like, yep, I wake up and yeah, let's sign him. The other day I'm just like, you know what? He's 29 years old. He's probably looking for another 7 years. That contract that he's going to get may eventually turn for the worst, especially towards the end. So my brain's in a pretzel about it.
You know what
Kenny,
I'm hearing?
I think of those. Go ahead, Brogan.
I'm hearing that from Clean Hits Hockey. This is breaking news. If they're going to pull off a nature style trade, it's Nick Schmaltz to the Leafs for Matthew Nyes. It's got to happen.
Oh man!
Oh man! I mean,
okay,
yeah, Nick Schmaltz and what army? I guess, right?
Yeah.
So Kenny, of those three options you laid out, sign him to the big long ticket, kind of inch closer to what he's probably asking for to get it done is option one. Option two is try to figure out a way to trade him for something so that you preserve some kind of assets. Or option three is kind of let the season play out, see how he does down the stretch, kind of use him as your own trade deadline rental, sit on the assets that you have a little bit more, and see if maybe the price comes down or you can figure something out in the offseason with the risk of losing him for free. I think between all of those options, my favorite is the third one, to just let him play out the season and see what goes down. I don't want to jump into an extension with this player. Certainly not one that's a little too long or a little too big for my liking. There's a lot of risk there for me with him when he's not in the contract year, especially given that he's a few years older than the majority of the core, and he's had some consistency issues throughout his career. I am not really looking to sign that to a big, long ticket necessarily. Meanwhile, the vibes are sky high with the team. I don't think I'd really want to upset the apple cart and trade him just to preserve some assets, some currency. I think I'd rather just kind of let this thing play out and turn my attention a little bit more on getting Deseret Hayton done than figuring out the Nick Schmaltz conundrum. What about you, Brogan? Which option do you see as likely or most beneficial?
Yeah, I definitely think there's merit to all of them. But I would be surprised if they didn't want to keep all three around, or I guess both guys around, Hayton and Schmaltz. But whether they, especially Nick Schmaltz, like whether he wants to stay or not is something that I have not been able to figure out quite yet. And so if he decides to go to the open market, I don't think that you're gonna convince him much otherwise. But if he says, "Oh, hey, like Utah has a chance to win now," then maybe that is what makes him want to stay. And so that's the one thing that I worry about. And like you said, if the team is getting to a point where they realize that they can't sign him, or that they're not going to come to terms on a number that they both agree with, or something like that, then you should look for a trade and something like you said, that it would be a win-win for the both teams, and that both could come out as winners, I guess, because that's what it was with the Rantanen trade. Like both teams got things that they really valued out of the trade. And I think that if Utah could do something like that, then that would be beneficial for sure.
Man, all three teams did in a way. Colorado got the younger guy that they could sign on a contract that they had a little bit more control over. Carolina got younger and got some depth pieces to really fill out that roster, and then Dallas got another game breaker. It's insane.
Yeah. And all three of them in a playoff position, which you don't really see two competitive teams trade, one of their core players for another. But that's the reality of the NHL that we live in now. Like Colorado dealt Rantanen because they didn't want to sign him for $14 million. But then all of a sudden Natchez gets there and he goes on this absolute tear. And we're like, well, you might have to sign Natchez for what you didn't want to sign Rantanen for. Or you lose both of them, and that looks bad. But in all reality, they signed him, I think, 11.5, and they, you kind of get their mindset with that. They're like, okay, we get an equally productive player in our opinion, or close to, but we get him for $2 million cheaper, and that $2 million means a lot. when it comes to down to the wire when you're trying to squeeze everybody in. So you could absolutely see something like that go down with Schmaltz. I don't even know where to start with who I would be targeting. I joked with Corey about, like, do we need to revisit the Rossi situation just to kind of pump his tires a little bit there. But I do tend to agree with you, Trent. I think option 3 is the path of least resistance, and just let him go play his heart out and try to earn a contract and just try to go deep playoff run.
Well, the part of the appeal of option 3 though is the concept that that trading him could potentially upset chemistry, could potentially kill the vibes, could potentially have a detrimental effect on the team. But that's a little bit of an assumption. If the team offers what they think is a fair contract extension and he declines, wanting to maximize his own value, perhaps that's something that the team would understand, that the guys in the room would understand. Maybe even though he's playing out of his mind and they end up dealing him, perhaps they'll extend some grace to management and to Nick Schmaltz for both sides wanting to get the most they can out of the situation. And maybe it wouldn't be that detrimental. I don't really know. Brogan, what would your read be on that situation? Do you think that a stalemate in contract negotiations leading to a trade, even while Schmaltz is productive and even while the team is having success, could be counterproductive? Or do you think that players tend to understand that business is business?
I think there's certainly both, and that Rantanen trade proves that. Like, the fact that it, you can make that trade and it can still help both teams, accomplish close to what they wanted to accomplish last year. Although neither of them made it as far in the playoffs as they probably wanted to. But I think that the thing that we should not forget here is the chemistry that those 3 players have with each other, Schmaltz, Hayton, and Keller. The fact that they've played together for so long, dating back to Arizona, like that's something that, and Turney talks about this a lot, that's something that has really helped them to know where each other is at all times on the ice. They always know in this situation, okay, he's the F1, he's the F2, he's the F3. Here's where Barrett Hayton, drops back defensively while the other 2 go in and try and make a play. Those kinds of things, and they all read off each other a lot better because they know each other so well and have been playing together for so long. And so that would be my one reservation with something like that, is just that you never know if the player you're getting back is somebody that would plug into that spot right away.
Yeah.
And chances are he's not. Like, chances are you're not going to get somebody that automatically is as good with those players as the previous one was. I will say, though, that JJ Peterka did plug in really well with Cooley and Gunther, so it can be done.
I was literally just thinking about that. I was thinking about that last night, that Peterka would be so great as a fit there if we did deal Schmaltz, but then the kid line loses Peterka, and and they've played so well there. So then it's like, okay, does the new guy go there, and does he fit in as well? It's kind of like, robbing Peter to pay Paul, right? It's a difficult situation.
Yeah,
I have less concern of finding a forward that will work with Cooley and Gunther than I would finding a forward that works with Keller and Hayton. So I think you need 2 high-skilled guys on that Keller-Hayton line to help cause that type of havoc where Hayton can kind of thrive and be the puck distributor, be the more responsible defensively one. I actually kind of feel like having a more 2-way guy with Cooley and Gunther could go a long ways. Maybe a brother of a player who got traded to help us acquire Mikhail Sergachev would be a very, very nice fit here.
Morgan Geekie,
maybe very available, and Morgan Geekie, yes, who just scored again and has 9 goals on the season already. And when we talk about that,
but they wouldn't
$5 million in cap that we have remaining now, you could probably make that trade this season to add to the depth for a nice big playoff push. Then if you could not figure out something with Schmaltz, let him walk, move JJ to the top line, Geekie to the Cooley Gunther line, and then allow the Boots and Tejas and prospects of the world to kind of fill in the roster. That's the dream scenario for me. You've convinced me.
Geekie, again. Yeah, Geekie I think would be a great fit. on the roster. He's in that age range Bill Armstrong talked about, not wanting to get outside of that 27-year-old age range, which Schmaltz currently is. Boston's, I don't know. They make weird decisions. It seems like they're hesitant to do a full scorched earth rebuild, which is nuts to me. They should. So who knows about his availability? On the opposite direction, like Morgan Geekie's one of the hottest goal scorers of the last 80-something games. Going into the back half of last season to now, he's like really high on the list of goal scorers. He's red hot, and very, very intriguing. There's another guy who's like ice cold and not fitting in well at all. That could be a decent reclamation project that you might be able to get for Schmaltz if you're looking to find a nice fit without giving up additional major assets. And a team that's been rumored to have been around Schmaltz this summer before pivoting to Nikolai Ehlers as the Carolina Hurricanes. And I wonder with how much Andrei Svechnikov is struggling in Carolina, how interesting that would be for us. He's a bit of a power forward type, a bit of a goal scoring type. He's had some playoff success. He brings a little bit more grit and tenacity to the table. But he does struggle with those same kinds of consistency issues that Schmaltz has. But we've seen players come into this system and thrive. He may be one to do that. Rod Brindamore's not for everybody. And we do have a bit of a burgeoning Russian contingent here to lay out the welcome party for him. So that could be, if you wanted to go for a depressed asset that you could get for maybe a pending UFA, that might be an interesting route to explore. Whereas Morgan Geekie's locked up long-term to a good deal, and you're probably looking at giving up top assets for him.
The Ehlers one is interesting. I've written about this a little bit recently, that Ehlers is kind of seen as this like really good winger, like probably a bona fide, second line winger for sure, probably even a first line guy. And Schmaltz kind of doesn't have that same reputation, league wide at least. But then when you go and look at their stats, they were tied in points last year and the year before. So they are like the exact same caliber of player. And you can nitpick styles of play and size and whatever else you want. And I think they're also like a week apart in age or something like that. Like they're the exact same age. And so I think that's the caliber of player that they should expect to get back if they were to trade him. Whether that particular one is available or not. But you can always ask Bell if Geekie's available too.
That's a good idea. We'll have to do that. Yeah,
I forgot about that. Yeah, well, Svechnikov. God, I can't even say his name, but that would be, man. You have a knack for getting my brain going a million miles an hour. Man, that would be a blockbuster. And I actually do see the fit, man. I really do, because I do think that Carolina would. They've had interest in him for a few seasons. It sounds like, and it sounds like they were.
Sounds like we got very close to moving Schmaltz there at one deadline a couple seasons ago.
Right, and
Svechnikov is struggling bad and not fitting in. They've got him playing third, fourth line. He's being a good
2 goals and an assist in his past 2 games, though. All
right, he's back. Forget that.
He's back.
No, I mean,
all right, forget
he
that.
May have needed the fourth line stint in order to get motivated again, but we'll see how long it lasts, because this has been an ongoing thing for several seasons now with Carolina. I'm going to pivot us to the Barrett Hayton contract, though, because that will definitely be, maybe arguably more important to get done than Schmaltz, due to the fact that Schmaltz can just walk. This is one that we actually need to take care of, and it's probably one where going into the offseason with at least the foundation of a discussion and maybe the foundation of a contract will be very beneficial. It is also one where his production this year will really help dictate what he gets paid and the amount of term we'd be willing to provide him. I would say last year he probably met the expectations that he would have wanted to see and the team would have wanted to see to increase his value at the end of his 2-year bridge deal. So far this season, 2 goals, 2 assists, 4 points in 9 games. That pace probably keeps him on a similar pace to where he was last season. But you would also want to see a little bit of improvement, especially the fact that he's been playing with Keller and Schmaltz, who have been red hot offensively to start the season. Trent, I'm going to let you go first here, as I know you said you had a few notes on Hayton that you kind of wanted to bring up.
Yeah, I mean, he's an interesting one because we've had some comparables sign recently, guys like Marco Rossi, who are pretty similar in a lot of ways in terms of the role they have on the team. But I think interestingly, too, is having Logan Cooley and Jack McBain signed, who are the other 2 top 9 centers on the team, who are also pretty young. And looking at their compensation relative to their production, is interesting as well. So Cooley's per 82 game rate of scoring in the NHL so far is 59 points per 82. Now, that, of course, includes his rookie season, and this white-hot start is only a small sample size, so that's bound to go up. Whereas Jack McBain's per 82 scoring rate in the NHL so far is 27. So if you combine those two for an average, you get about 43 points. Barrett Hayton's is 37. So his production rate is about the middle ground between McBain and Cooley so far. His role on the team currently is kind of between Cooley and McBain's. Hell, even the style of play that he brings is kind of somewhere in between those 2 guys in terms of grit and skill and defense versus offense, et cetera, et cetera. And if you combine their 2 brand new extensions that they just signed, both of them, to the average of those is going to be 7.125. 7.125 AAV. Does that sound like a fair contract for Barrett Hayton to you guys in the new cap world? Because that's the halfway point between McBain and Cooley. If I'm Barrett Hayton, I'm saying I'm worth at least that, right?
Wow.
That's really good point. And if you asked me that a year ago, I'd say no way. But it's in the rising cap and seeing the comps around, that's a fair number. And if I was presented with the option to sign him for 7 years, I mean, we could still sign players for 8 years until next year, right? Oh well, yeah, we just did it with Cooley. Duh. If I was presented with that option, it might be hard for me to turn that one down. That being said, I don't know if Hayton wants that long of a deal. I think maybe he might want to, get that 7, around the 6 to 7 is what I was initially thinking. But that 7 million sounds more likely like he's going to request. I think he'd probably want to have that take him to free agency and then see what he can do from there. But I think if I was presented with that option right now, I'd probably take it. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think anything below 7's a kind of a steal.
Right.
Honestly.
Yeah.
If it starts with a 6, I'm real happy, even if it's 8 years. He's a guy who, with Caleb Desnoyers coming up, a guy that you hope ends up your 3rd line center, and one that can kind of stay in that role, which pushes McBain to the wing or down to the 4th line. And then, of course, you've got 1st-round pick who's dominating the OHL right now, Cole Baudouin, coming up, who's going to be looking for a bottom 6 center spot as well. So things are looking crowded in a good way, but Barrett Hayton has the versatility to move up and down the lineup. So if you can get him at a price point that is appropriate for a player who can crawl up and down the lineup, that would be the ideal thing to do. So for me, anything under 7's a bargain, and I'd be happy to do it.
Right.
Did you say it was 7.125?
That's the middle ground between Cooley and McBain's AAVs. Yeah.
With 26.7 mil in cap space, that would still leave us with 19.5, which.
And then you've got your
Stenlin.
That means I am happy to sign Stenlin at a larger amount for a shorter term.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe allow Kerfoot to walk as as great as he's been, mostly just to free up some roster spots.
Right.
We need those ELCs coming in. Yeah. We have to.
Yep. And you would still have room to sign Schmaltz, at 9 and have 10 mil plus before the Stenlin. If you do Stenlin at 5, then you only have about 5 mil to play with. But that also means if you get another 2 third line kind of power forward-y type, like a Justin Brazeau, who is doing so well with Pittsburgh and kind of is on a similar trajectory as Morgan Geekie, where he's hitting his 27-year-old play and really starting to find his footing in this league. We've seen this with guys like Frederick Gaudreau, who really kind of exploded last season. Some of these larger power forward types take a little bit longer to kind of hit their prime. And you may be able to find those guys that have a couple more years remaining that would be able to kind of slot in for Schmaltz's production right now until those guys like Tej and Boot take that next big step. But
yeah, when you said there's room to sign Schmaltz to something starting with a 9, my immediate reaction is, I don't want that. I don't want that.
Yeah.
Because he's going to be 30 this season.
Right.
When the season's half over, he's going to be 30. Which means that by the time Logan Cooley's 25, in his prime, Schmaltz is going to be 34. So he's going to be on the downslope. So if he's signed much beyond those 4 years, the actual cup contention window kind of opens up. Probably not until Cooley and Gunther are 24, 25 years old, and you've got Tej and Caleb Desnoyers on the roster contributing on ELCs to help you balance your cap, and that's when your cup window's open, right?
Right.
That's when you're going to have a 34-year-old $9.5 million AAV Nick Schmaltz on the books.
Yep. Go ahead. Sorry.
And then you got to think if Keller's going to get that pay increase after 2 more seasons after this one, so the 28-29, and we're assuming that is going to be higher than Cooley, which almost seems like a given. We're talking about probably something in the 12 million or more range. Then that Schmaltz contract really is starting to dig into what you're able to do even further. So as much as last week I was kind of on we may be able to make this work, I think the only way you make it work past the 27-28 season is if Schmaltz gets picked up on an expansion team, which is a lot of ifs. If there's a team, if there are
that would be the key.
Teams, and if they take him,
he's like, how did I end up on Arizona again?
imagine.
I think really the way you posture this, if you're Bill Armstrong and Ryan Smith, is you say, hey, listen, I know what you're probably worth on the open market, and I know that you've got great chemistry. You've put up great numbers and serviceable numbers in years past. That being said, here it is. This is our transparency right here. If you want to stay with this team, the max that we can do is 5 years at 7.5 or something along those lines. That's the max we can do. I know that doesn't put him in the best spot, obviously, because but really, I mean, that's, in my opinion, that's as far as I'd be willing to go. And of course, his camp's probably going to turn that down, and then we've got an understanding. Well, hey, we appreciate you and everything you've done. Go try to win a cup with this team. Inflate those numbers as high as you can, and go get the bag in the off season, and just inspire him to just take off and help the team immediately. But as far as a future projection, a 30-year-old $9 million Nick Schmaltz for 7 years, 8 years, whatever he wants to sign for, it's going to be painful. I mean, we're talking about a 37, 30, 38-year-old Nick Schmaltz making $9 million. And he's not really built for he's an extremely talented player, but he's not really built for longevity, in my opinion. I don't know. I could be
he's
way
had
off.
injury issues before.
Yeah.
I mean,
he missed a lot of time early in his career. And he's a get you to the playoffs guy more than a get you through the playoffs guy.
100%.
Stylistically.
I mean, yeah, unless he's playing like this. I mean, he's just been insane.
True.
He's just been tremendous this season. And maybe he has hit that area of his game where he feels confident playing like this night in, night out. But, we're only 10, 11 games in here. So we got a lot of hockey left to see if he can keep this up. And I think
he just needed to turn 29 and a half to put it all together. Huh?
Yeah.
I think it's probably the contract year factor. Plus having a second line that's equally as productive as the first line is a sweet situation for him to be in for a lot of different reasons. But, having said all of that, I think the only way to keep him is if you structure the new contract in a way that is as enticing as possible for expansion teams and as enticing as possible for teams trying to reach the cap floor a few years from now when that cap floor is really, really high. So that to me means putting in a ton of bonus money right up front. So the cash under cap is significant and he remains a portable player. Maybe you're not going to get assets for him in a few years, but he won't be an anchor, I don't think. I think he's going to retain some on-ice value, maybe not up to his cap hit. And if you structure it in such a way that desperate teams who want to hit the cap floor and need some talent for their new young stars they're rebuilding around to play with might be willing to take him off your hands, and expansion teams might be willing to take him off your hands because he has little brand recognition. He's a bit of an exciting player. I think that would be the way to try to keep him. But to your point, Brad, there's a lot of variables there that are outside the control of Bill Armstrong. And I don't think he likes to hope. I
don't either.
I think he likes to plan. Yeah. Hope is not a plan, right? Hope is not a strategy.
Yeah. Came in with a 5-year plan. Rick Tocchet came in with PowerPoint. I think I like PA's diligence and whatever he has done, and he has absolutely stuck with it so far. Now, the nice thing here is we do have 6 picks.
It's unreal
in this year's draft before the 4th round. So 3 seconds, 2/3, and a first. If we want to go out and get somebody at the deadline, that could be a kind of nice bridge for the second, third line for the next couple of years, or do that at the actual draft table. They have the ammo to do this, plus all the prospects that are knocking at the door that may not be able to make it on this roster, especially with the forward group. I mean, guys like Mikko Matica could still have a good amount of value across the league. I know he needs to be really showing it more in the AHL, but this is a guy with a nice profile that a rebuilding team like Boston may have interest in, and a team that may have more flexibility to get them in their top 6. Same with Julian Lutz. There's names that could be used to make this type of trade, but I think it'll be interesting to see what they do around the deadline. If they add a piece that is signed for multiple years, I think that could definitely signal that Schmaltz may not be in the cards. Well,
yeah, that's my favorite. That's my favorite plan, Brad, is trading for Schmaltz's replacement and then allowing Schmaltz to be your quote unquote own rental at the deadline. You don't go out and get a rental. You use Schmaltz as your rental, and you use the assets you would have paid on a rental. Maybe add a few extra assets in to get more of a longer term piece that can replace Schmaltz. That's definitely my favorite of the plans that we've discussed here today. So great point.
And I'd love to have Schmaltz on the playoff run too. I think he's not been able to play in the playoffs for a very long time, and if you don't want to count the bubble thing, he hasn't at all. So it would be really nice for him to be able to do this run with this team, assuming that they make the playoffs. So that is probably my favorite of the options now. Last week, I was kind of starting to dream up how we make this work and how he magically yeah, like you said, Kenny goes back to Arizona in 4 years and everything's perfect. And the world is just working out exactly how you have it planned. And today reality has hit, especially with hearing the idea that Hayton probably will get signed to a $7 million contract. Guys, I love breaking down the cap. The big Cooley contract really kind of helps put things in place. It was one of those things. I think just last week I was saying that it's going to be hard to really think about next season without knowing what that Cooley contract looks like. And now that it's done, it's really starting to show what the entirety of this roster construct will kind of look like over the course of the next couple years. Feels really good to have a guy like Cooley locked up instead of allowing him to have, how many hat tricks is he on pace for? 8? Yeah, it's about 8. So I don't mind that happening before the contract falling before he puts up 52 goals or whatever he's on pace for right now and wants 16 million. And I'm just so excited for the future of this team.
Me too.
Yep.
Crazy.
Brogan had some technical issues. His phone must be haunted or something. This is Halloween and then spooky season. Or a poltergeist has taken him away. Hopefully Brogan is all right. But if you want to check out his work, he writes for the Deseret News. You can find him on Twitter at Houston_Brogan. He has a fantastic piece on that Cooley contract, so definitely go check that out. Boys, anything else?
I just want to encourage everyone to let us know what their Halloween costumes are going to be in the comments, please. I've played for one beer league team that qualifies as spooky, so I'll be going out as a hockey player tonight. This is my spookiest hockey team I've played for. Oh, look at that, sugar skulls galore!
Right.
So
the ghosts of Coyotes past.
I saw some folks dressing up as ghosts wearing Coyotes jerseys for Halloween, so
that's good.
That was fun to see.
Maybe I'll throw in some zombie costume and wear Mango's jersey tonight. That'd be an easy one.
So let us know in the comments, please, what you're going to be for Halloween this year. We're interested to know.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm kind of going as a Utah Mammoth player, but I've started customizing my own jerseys because every jersey that I've bought in the past, the player gets immediately traded. It started with Ballard, started with Schustrom, then Mueller, then Turris, and all that. And I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
The last jersey I bought that actually worked out was Keller. I'm like, hey, I got it. And they're like, the universe was like, okay, yeah, he's staying on the team, but the team is being traded to Utah. So I was like, okay, you know what? It's just me for the rest of the time. So, but yeah, no, that's my costume tonight. And I hope everybody has a safe and happy night, especially with the kiddos out there, guys. And we appreciate you all.
Yep. All right. We'll catch you next week. See ya.
I'm running the game now.